Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So, it's the end of another month, therefore meaning another monthly Q&A. So for those of you who do not already know, once a month I always have a Q&A. You can ask me any questions you would like, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And if you would like for me to answer any of your questions that you may have, leave them down below on this video for next month's Q&A, and I will most certainly do my best to answer them next month. And if I miss any, then, as you know, I will most definitely get to them the next month for sure. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the Q&A. So the first question is from SpringFan242, and they ask, other than Pyrrha and Mercury, who is the best character in RWBY? Oh, well, isn't it obvious? I mean, it's Neo. I mean, who doesn't love the Ice Cream Queen? I mean, Neo's the best. Gotta love Neo. Next question. Christopher Capers Jones asks, what is your favorite music genre, and what is your favorite song in particular from said genre? Oh, man. That is tough, because there's a lot of genres I like. I like rock. I like heavy metal, hard rock. That's hard for me to say. I mean, those are my favorites. I don't know what my favorite would be, though. I have to say, when it comes to metal, though, I do like Death by Fire by Monomarth. That is great. I love it. Then again, I'm a big fan of a Monomarth, so that's just me. But yeah, it's hard for me to say what's my favorite. I also love J-pop. That's another one I do love. But when it comes to music, yeah, I really do love music. It's something I've always enjoyed for a long time. So, when it comes to music, I'm a big fan. But moving on to the next question. Not a Bizarre Jojo asks, have you checked out any other web series like Has Been Hotel, which I really recommend? No, I actually haven't, but I will definitely give it a check since you recommended it. So I will check it out and see what I think and let you know. So, thank you for the recommendation. The next question is by Theus the Spade, and Theus asks, aside from Cinder and Salem might have answered it, who's the worst villain by far? When it comes in terms to RWBY, in my opinion, the worst villain to me by far, I actually have to say it's Salem. Now, my reason for saying that it's Salem is, besides the fact that I do not like her backstory, I mean, that's a personal opinion. If you like her backstory, there's nothing wrong with it. But I don't like Salem's backstory. And we don't even know what her motivations are ever since they retconned them. Because the song Divide was actually her motivations, and then they retconned that. So, yeah, I don't really like Salem that much anymore. I used to like the idea of Salem, but yeah, I don't really care that much for Salem anymore. I think that kind of did it. So, yeah, essentially you kind of did answer the question yourself. But, yeah, Salem is my least favorite for certain right now. So, Ian Kreider asks, speaking of which, did RWBY Chibi get canceled? If it did, when did it happen? So, RWBY Chibi, now I don't know this for a fact, but from what I know by rumors that it did. Now, this happened after Season 2, obviously, because there was no Season 3, and if I had to guess, and this is just my speculations, now I don't know this, but this is just my guess, I would say it's probably because of the budget and everything they were doing with Genlock, because Genlock was their highest budgeted show that Rooster Teeth ever made. Of course, Genlock flopped, which did not help them. Hence why Katie Newman was actually transferred from doing RWBY to Genlock, which now she's back to RWBY. But, yeah, so it may have actually had to do with that. And considering that they were also putting their bets on Genlock, yeah, I say that really didn't help RWBY Chibi, but, these are just under my speculations, but, if I had to say, that's probably what happened, because RWBY Chibi has not been announced for another season, and they never confirmed that they canceled it, but from what I've heard, and I have some sources on that it has been, but I'm just saying by what I have heard. So, that's all that I know in terms of what I've heard. But, that's all I can really say about it. But good question. Very good question. So moving on to the next question. Ashire MGTOW ask, did Roman Torchic have a semblance? Well, everybody has a semblance if their aura is unlocked, which everybody has aura that is a living human being, as well as a faunus. He just never discovered it. And he never had his aura unlocked that we know of either. It was never confirmed that, but it was never shown that he had it unlocked either. So he definitely had a semblance, but without his aura being unlocked, he never found it. Therefore, yes and no. So it's a yes and no kind of answer because, yeah, he had one, but at the same time, he didn't have it because he never unlocked it. But he had the potential to unlock one if his aura had been unlocked. Randy Miller asked, did you ever watch Nomad of Nowhere? No, I actually didn't. I haven't really cared much for Rooster Teeth stuff other than RWBY. I mean, the last time I cared for anything aside from RWBY was actually Red vs. Blue, but after Season 10, Red vs. Blue started to just not do as well with its writing or its animations. Then again, you know, Seasons 8 through 10, Monty animated for Red vs. Blue, so of course the animation was top-notch in its prime. But after that, when Monty went on to do RWBY, yeah, of course everything started to just fall apart when it comes to Red vs. Blue, in my opinion. I don't think it's been as good since Season 10. And it's just been very lackluster in my opinion, and it just kind of fell off for me, you know, like I just didn't really care that much. And then, of course, RWBY is what I really stuck with because, to me, RWBY was at that point their best show. And while I'm not a fan of the writing right now with RWBY, while I have tons of issues with the writing since Volume 4 and onward, I still think it's the best show that Rooster Teeth has. It's still their flagship series. So, you know, there's that. But I never really cared much for their other stuff in later years of Rooster Teeth. I just haven't. And it's not really clicked with me like Red vs. Blue used to, for example. If you go back to Seasons 1 through 10 of Red vs. Blue, you will see Red vs. Blue when it was in its prime and when it was excellent. I mean, Red vs. Blue, especially my favorite seasons of Red vs. Blue, is still the first 3. I'd say the first 3 seasons of Red vs. Blue are, in my opinion, the best when it comes to the comedy, because that's what it was. It was originally a parody, and it was just hilarious. Now, if you want to go with really good writing still for Red vs. Blue, and when it comes to animation, yeah, seasons 8 through 10 was really great with its animation. Then again, you know, that's Monty, so just saying. But, you know, I just haven't really cared much for their other stuff, personally, but that's just my opinion. Moving on to the next question. Ashire MGTOW asks, out of all the weapons in RWBY, which one would you say would be most impossible to build and use in real life? Me, I would say it would be Pyrrha's. Since guns have all those small parts inside it, it would break easily if you tried to use it after hitting things in its sword form. Plus, it'll be pretty heavy carrying it one-handed. Yeah, I would probably say Pyrrha's would be a very difficult one. Because when you think about Pyrrha's, hers was a spear that could also turn into a rifle. And with the components inside, that would also be your rifle, which would be your gun. Yeah, that would be very hard to keep together, I would say. And I would say that it would probably break some parts of it. I think another one that would probably be hard would be RWBY's Crescent Rose. Because, you know, you have a scythe that goes into a gun. Well, a high-caliber sniper rifle, to be precise. But when you think about a scythe turning into a sniper rifle, that would also be really difficult to have and use, especially with it trying to switch into the gun form or back into the scythe. That would be a really difficult weapon, I think, to actually use as well. So I would have to say that's another one I think that would be really difficult. Also, Coco's, because it's a briefcase that turns into a minigun. I mean, could you imagine how heavy it would be to carry around the briefcase with all those components to the minigun inside of it? Man, that would be another difficult one. And besides, you could use the briefcase to smack people around with, which is kind of a funny thought there. But, yeah, I mean, those are some of the weapons I would say would be some of the hardest ones to actually have in real life. But that's my opinion. Good question. Julian R. asked, I've been thinking, can you review all the episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars 2008 show on your second channel. I could try to do that if other people would want me to do so, because I've been trying to think of what I'm going to do with the other channel. So I'll do something with it. If anybody wants to throw out recommendations what they would like to see on the second channel, I will definitely try to work that out and try to get to doing that. So if anybody would like for me to try to do that kind of stuff, yeah, I'd love to. I would certainly love to do whatever. So I do plan to do different things with that channel. I just haven't had an idea as to what I wanted to do with it yet. So there'll be something to do with it. Just let me know what all of you think about what I should do with that channel, because I have it up, but I do want to do something with it. I just got to figure out what to do with it. So yeah, just, it's up to suggestion, up to debate. So just let me know what you would like to see, and we'll try to work it out and see if I can do it. Demonetized Demons asked, Ozpin versus Urahara from Bleach. Yeah, that would be a cool death battle idea, actually. I mean, yeah, Urahara would definitely beat Ozpin, but that would be a cool fight to actually watch. I mean, I would especially love it if they actually had Urahara use his Bankai, to actually see his Bankai animated. Because if you've seen that in the manga, that Bankai is awesome. I love that Bankai. That's probably my favorite Bankai, actually. So, to see that and how powerful Urahara is, he would win against Ozpin, but Urahara, that would be awesome to see him just fully be able to use all of his powers animated. I would love to just see that. Now, the next several questions comes from Luke Skywalker II, and here's what he had to say. Hey Draco, here are my questions for the next Q&A. When we saw Salem jump into one of those grim pools made by the Brother of Darkness, we saw that it ended up grimifying Salem. Do you think that it could work on anyone else besides her? I do think it's possible that it could work on another individual. Now, whether to say this would just kill somebody if they fell in, that's something we don't know. But Salem believed it would be her way of killing herself, despite the fact that she's immortal. So, either A, she thought she could drown herself, maybe. I don't exactly know. But then again, they haven't even clarified if the ooze would kill somebody if they fell in. So we have no idea if it would exactly kill them, or if it would just do what it did to Salem and grimify them. So that's a really debatable question, but that's a good one. If I had to say, now this is just my, I guess, headcanon on that, I would say it would probably grimify a person if they were probably strong enough. Like, for example, say you had like a weak will or a weaker body, I think it'd kill you. But I think if you had a strong enough will to survive it, I think you'd probably be grimmified. But that's just headcanon. That's just a theory. That's not a definite answer, but that's just my thoughts on that. Who is your favorite character from the Walking Dead comics? For me, it would be Carl. Yeah, I'd have to say Carl, because he's the best developed one, but he's the one that you've stuck with the longest in the series. I think he's a very relatable character, and I enjoyed his story. And that's one thing I think the TV show did make a very terrible mistake out of, was actually killing his character. Now, while I don't watch the show, I've kept up with it to see the differences between the comics and the show. But I'll say this, the show, in my opinion, probably just needs to end. I think that they've just drawn it out for what it's worth, and they've changed so many things. I think the comic just resulted in being better, personally, but that's just my opinion. So, moving on to the next question. Have you ever read any of the expanded universe novels of Halo? Yes, I have, actually. If so, then which one is your most favorite? For me, it would be The Fall of Reach by Eric Nilland. Well, that one would be my favorite. That one and The Flood. I really like The Flood and the story of Zuka Zamini, however you say that elite's name. But yeah, I thought those two were really, really good. I do like the Halo Reach game, but the thing is, there's so many differences between Reach and The Fall of Reach, and I had some issues because obviously the book The Fall of Reach came out first, so I had already read that and knew what may have been to come, and then I thought, well, there's so many differences here. I was like, I'm not really too happy that they changed things, but at the same time, I really enjoyed the video game Reach, though, because I thought Halo Reach was excellent as a game, but I really would have loved for them to have adapted the book. I also had an issue with the Brutes being in the game, considering that if you read the book, that was an elite squadron that attacked Reach. It was not a Brute squadron. So I had an issue with that, but, you know, they made changes, and that's just how it is. But if I had to say, though, The Fall of Reach and The Flood, those are my two favorite Halo novels. But moving forward, have you ever read any of the works of H.G. Wells? If so, then what is your favorite work from him? For me, it would be The Time Machine. Actually, I have not read anything from H.G. Wells, but I will give it a look. I will take a look at his work and let you know what I think. Moving forward, what is your favorite poem from Robert Frost? For me, it would be The Spoils of the Dead. That is a pretty good one. I actually do like that one. My favorite is A Road Not Taken. I have to say that's my favorite poem from Robert Frost. So, moving to the next question is, if the Arbiter from Halo ended up in the RWBY universe, how do you think he would interact with any of the main four or any other character? That's a good question. The Arbiter would probably question why people who don't seem like they're suited for fighting would be warriors, probably. He'd probably wonder what a huntsman is, for example. And the next thing is that he would probably question what is good and what isn't, because he'd probably look at Ozpin and Salem and question, well, you have secrets, what are you trying to hide? And he'd look at Salem and wonder what her intentions are, but in the end, I think he would fight for what he felt would be right. And I think that's how he would respond. He would probably think some of the powers he would see, like Cinder with the Maiden Powers, for example, was crazy. But considering that he's seen things like Halo and stuff like that, it wouldn't be too out of the ordinary for him. But those are just my thoughts. The next question, have you ever read anything from Isaac Asimov? I'm sorry, I hope I didn't butcher his name. I'm sure I did. If so, then what is your favorite book from him? For me, it would be Foundation. I have never heard of who that is. That's probably terrible. But I will check him out. I'll check out his work, and I'll let you know what I think. If Stephen King wrote RWBY, how do you think its story would go? It would probably be very, very creepy. Yeah, I think it would be. I think Stephen King would be an excellent writer for RWBY because, well, he would actually know how to write, for one. But secondly, he would also be able to write suspense. He would do good, I think. I think he would be good at adding mystery elements and horror elements into RWBY whenever it was needed. I think that would be cool. Now, how he would do action, I would wonder, but he would probably do it pretty well. So, I think he would do a great job with it, and I think he would make a much more eerie and creepy factor with Salem, and I think he would actually have, like, some kind of plot twist for Ozpin. And I would like that. I think that would be great if he was actually a writer. I mean, I think he'd do a good job. Okay, so moving forward. Have you ever read The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan? I have not. I have heard Robert Jordan, but I have never read The Wheel of Time. Moving forward. Are you a fan of Transformers? If so, then what is your favorite Transformers character and show? For me, it would be Jazz and Transformers Prime. My favorite, and this is probably a weird one, my favorite was actually Beast Wars. And my favorite character, it's hard for me to say because I really like Shockwave. I always like Shockwave. I always like Soundwave. And I always liked the original Dinobot from Beast Wars. He was the Raptor. Now, of course, there are the Dinobots, which you can get confused by that. But Dinobot himself, the original one, he was a Raptor who was switching sides all the time. He was either a Decepticon or he was an Autobot. He would switch sides. And I thought that that was actually really cool. But yeah, I did actually like Dinobot. So I'd say those are my three favorites. It's hard for me to say which one's my favorite out of all of them, but I really liked all three of them. So moving on to the next question. If Unicron from Transformers and the Brother of Light got into a fight, who do you think would win? I'm going super OP with these fights. Well, okay, so I would have to go with Unicron because, one, if you look at how much power Unicron had, he's supposed to be the representation of Satan in Transformers. So he's supposed to be the robotic devil, essentially. I would say that Unicron would win. Also, he does eat planets. So I would say if they were to fight, Unicron would win. Unless the Brother of Light has something. But I put it more on Unicron because he seems like the much stronger of the two. So I'd have to go with Unicron. Have you ever read The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis? No, I haven't, but I have actually seen the movies, the old one and the new one. If so, then what is your favorite book in the series? Well, since I haven't read the books, I can't say I have a favorite book, but yes, I do at least know of his work. I know that he's a good writer, but I would have to read them to let you know. Kenner Lane asks, for the Q&A, it's a rainy day and a soaked Neo shows up at your house. What do you do? I would take her in and take good care of her. Because nobody should be out in the rain getting soaked. And I would treat her to a good and wonderful dinner. And make sure that she was very well taken care of if Neo was real and if she came to my house. I would treat her like the ice cream queen that she is. Treat her fantastically. Because you gotta love Neo. Gotta love Neo. Also, if you were a huntsman, what would your clothes, weapon, and semblance be? Now, I've actually thought about what the weapon would be. My weapon would probably be either a sword that can change form based off the dust element that's within it. I think that would be awesome. To see the blade change within various different forms due to the dust that's inside of the blade, I think that would be awesome. I think that'd be a ton of fun. And if it were to be my clothes, I would probably wear, if it were me, probably some armor with a jacket over the armor. And then I would probably wear some armored leggings, some very armored boots for certain. I'd probably wear a helmet also, just because I think it would be kind of awesome to wear a helmet. And I'd say that my colors would probably be red and black. Those are my two favorite colors, so that would be the color scheme I would have. And for my semblance, just think about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Vento Arreo, or Golden Wind. Just think about Giorno, and think about Gold Experience Requiem. Just having the abilities of what Gold Experience Requiem has, that would be my semblance. Good lord, think about that. That would just be the most overpowered semblance of all time. There would not be a greater semblance than that. That would be too good of a semblance. But that's what I would want my semblance to be, honestly, is basically just to revert every action, everything to zero. Just to stop it from happening. And then if I killed somebody with that semblance, then they would just be in an eternal loop of death. I think that would be an amazingly OP semblance. Because I would love that. That would be my semblance, which would be way too insanely good. Inigo asks, Q&A, what are your opinions on the indie video game market in contrast to the large companies? It's an odd one, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Well, looking at AAA developers and what they've been doing with their games, I mean, if you look at EA, for example, all the issues that have come out of that, and then if you look at some indie game developers, you know, I've kind of sometimes looked more at indie games lately than I actually have some of the AAA games. Now, in terms of large game companies like Nintendo, which I love Nintendo, I don't have a problem with them. I don't think I've ever really had a huge issue with Nintendo that I can recall. I mean, yeah, their software is a little outdated on some of their consoles. That's true. But I've had loads of fun and hours spent into Nintendo games. But when it comes to indie stuff, I've actually tried some indie games from some people. It's been a load of fun. I actually like some of them. It's like a gamer wants to try to create games that people will enjoy. And I've seen that in some indie games. Some of them have been just fantastic. And I really like some of the indie games. There's a lot of things I'd have to look more into when it comes to this, but when it comes to indie video games, I think right now they have a pretty good chance at where they're at because, you know, it's like the gamer is trying to make a game for gamers. That's where you have these big companies like Bethesda and EA, you know, companies like that it's like they don't understand the gamers as much as they used to anymore. And I mean, I felt so very out of touch with them, like with Fallout 76 and that whole debacle and everything. Oh man, that was horrendous. That was just bad. And looking at EA and all their microtransactions and everything they have, you know, I don't know. I think indie games have kind of been a little better because, like I said, it just feels like the gamers trying to make a game for gamers to enjoy. It's like the gamers understand gamers, as opposed to these big companies that I feel like are kind of out of touch from gamers. But that's just my opinion on that. But, it's something to think about. I agree with you. It's definitely something to think about. There's a lot that I look into when it comes in terms of that stuff, and I try to keep up with it as much as I can. So, but yeah, no, that's a very good question. Very good. Moving on to the next question, Ian Kreider asks, if the series continue its quality drops, would you consider discussing how Rooster treats other shows? Genlock was the company's highest budget show, but it sucked. Meanwhile, old favorites like Red vs. Blue appears to be getting a SpongeBob treatment. If not, what would you do? Okay, so when it comes to that, I actually wouldn't mind talking about that because, when it comes to Rooster Teeth and their shows and everything they've been doing, they've been making some very strange and odd decisions that have not really benefited them. And, I've noticed, and multiple other people have, it's not just me, it's many people have noticed the quality drop and the changes in quality of their products. This is going to sound strange coming from me, and I'm going to talk about this in a video more in the future. But I still like Poser more than I do Maya. And I know that sounds very weird to probably say, but I think it had better quality on fights, and I'll talk about what I mean in the future on that. But yeah, no, they've made some really strange decisions, and yeah, with Genlock, they put all their money, I think they put all their hope into Genlock. And, well, it failed. It flopped. It didn't do good. And, that's the one thing I'm going to say about Rooster Teeth is I think that with their decisions and what they're doing, I think that they are biting off more than they can chew with their shows. And with all the budget, with everything they put into Genlock, and for it to flop, that was a huge hit for them. That was not good. That was not good for them. The show was not good. And, that's the thing. When I look at it, it's like they were trying to make that their flagship series. And like I said, I don't know this, but this is a theory. A friend of mine and I talked about this, that we feared that they were going to try to do this because that's what they did with RWBY. Now, going back onto what they did, Red vs. Blue was their flagship series at one time. And then when RWBY came out, RWBY became the flagship series. And then, if you notice, Red vs. Blue kind of started to derail and fall off in popularity, and RWBY really started to rise in popularity. And even today, RWBY is still its flagship series. So that's Rooster Teeth's flagship series that they have. And I think they tried to do that with Genlock, but they failed at that. And the reason why I say that is because if you go by their history, look at Red vs. Blue. Red vs. Blue was their flagship series at one time. It was their #1 series at one time, and that is true. And then when RWBY was starting to come out, they really pumped that show up. They really hyped up RWBY, and tons of people came in to that show because, for one, anime fans loved it. And I remember when the Red trailer came out, I remember that. And I was so pumped for RWBY. And, I was already a fan of Rooster Teeth, but what really started to throw that out there at me was I was into Red vs. Blue. So that was another thing. And I've always loved anime. So that was a twofer right there. So I was already a fan of Rooster Teeth's previous series. And then, of course, RWBY, looking the way it looked and everything, yeah, I was excited. And many other fans were as well. And that not only pulled in anime fans, but that also pulled in Red vs. Blue's fans too. Now, I think they tried to do that with Genlock, but it failed. So, there's that. But also, with the other part of your question, meanwhile, old favorites like Red vs. Blue appears to be getting the SpongeBob treatment. That is very true. If not, what would you do? I mean, I'm going to stick with RWBY till the end. Do I like the direction it has gone since Volume 4 onward? No, I don't. I am not particularly a fan of the writing direction and all the retcons and inconsistencies and just issues with the writing in general. I'm not a fan of that. But I will continue to sit here and still stick with the series, and I will still point out its flaws. I will still point out the issues. And, you know, I'll also throw the positives in there too. You know, whatever I think is good, I will say, hey, look, this was a good thing they did. I will tell you what I think is good, what I think was a good thing they did. But, you know, when it comes down to it, for the bad things, though, you know, I mean, I'm still going to stick with it, but doesn't mean I'm not going to call them out on the things I don't like that I think were terrible ideas or retcons or things that did not help the writing. I will definitely call them out on it, and I will actually call them out on the things that I think that'll be good. So I'll keep looking at it, and you know, whatever I see an issue of, I'll talk about it, and if I find something good, then I'll talk about that too. I mean, I am concerned right now for the writing, but we'll see where it goes. Hopefully it can get better, but we'll just have to see. Volume 7 is going to tell us where RWBY's going. I mean, it'll continue to do so. I mean, we'll just have to see where it goes. And with Miles at RTX this year saying that, you know, they wanted to produce it faster, quantity over quality is not a good idea. You want quality over quantity. You know, you don't want to rush a product, because if you do, it's not going to be the best it can be. And with Miles stating what he stated at RTX this year, yeah, saying that they wanted to get the work out faster. No, you don't. You want to take your time with it. And, you know, whatever issues I find with this volume of RWBY, I will say it. I will call it out. Because I guarantee you, if there was rushed writing in this, which I bet you there was, oh, people are going to notice it. And I will notice it too. So, we'll see where it all goes. And I'll definitely talk about it. So moving on to the next question. Inigo asks, neat. Also, Q&A, have you seen the Netflix Castlevania series? No, I haven't, but I need to. If yes, what did you think about it? If not, I recommend you watch it. It's pretty good. Yeah, I actually am a fan of the Castlevania games. Yes, I do want to watch that series, for certain. Julian R. asks, what's your favorite RWBY location? Probably Forever Fall. I love the color red, and I love the scenery. I loved how it looked. I thought it looked excellent. Ian Kreider asks, what are your least favorite anime characters in general? Oh boy. Oh man, I have some characters I don't like, and that is true. Here's what I'll say. You know, some people are probably going to be mad at me over this opinion, but I'm going to be straightforward. One character I despise with a passion, and I despise this character. I don't like this character. I don't like the way the character was written. I don't like the character's personality. I mean, I can give them one thing, they're good at fighting, but when it comes to who they are as a character, I don't like them, and that's Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto. I don't like his character, personally. Now, that's just my opinion, but I don't like him. I don't like the way that he was written. I don't like his ideology. And he's very one-dimensional as a character, and I don't like him. I know Kishimoto stated that he thought that Sasuke would basically be like the Piccolo character, but I think he was written terribly. And, you know, if you watch the Boruto series or if you read the manga, here's the thing about him. If you scratch away the anger and hatred that Sasuke felt at one time, he's very bland as a character. I don't really find him all that interesting. Now, there are people who love Sasuke out there, and there's nothing wrong with liking Sasuke. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just my personal opinion. I just am not a fan of Sasuke, and I think that he could have been written a lot better. I think the one chance that Kishimoto had at writing Sasuke well was whenever Sasuke made his group and they were going after Itachi so that he could fight Itachi. I think that was a time that he was starting to show a bit more character, but I think the ball was dropped after Itachi died. And I was not a fan of that at all. I also didn't like Kaguya, but I feel like Kaguya was just thrown in there at the very end. And, you know, reading the Boruto manga, I feel like with the direction they were going, Kaguya could have probably just been made as the villain for Boruto. But then again, Kaguya was very rushed into the plot. I mean, she was just thrown in there. And instead of Madara being the final villain like he should have been, she took his place. And I just feel like she could have been saved for the Boruto series, which I think she would have made a much better antagonist for that. And they could have led on more to her story there. But, you know, what can you do, right? I mean, it's already happened, said and done. But yeah, Sasuke, I don't like him. I don't like his character. I don't like Kaguya. I don't like Lucia from Rave, but I love to hate him, though, to be fair. I mean, he was just such a fantastic villain. I love to hate him. I mean, I hate him so much, but he's so good. So I can't help but love to hate him. I mean, he made me hate him the moment he came in. The first moment when he came into the series, oh yeah, I thought, oh man, he blew up an entire pirate ship. That's awesome. And then the next moment, what he does after that, I was just like, I hate you so much. Like, immediately went from a 180 to, oh man, you were awesome, to, oh, I hate you. I hate you, but I love to hate you. So, you know, I do hate him, but that's a good sign of a villain when you love to hate the villain. Unlike Sasuke, I just hated his character because I didn't like the way he was written. I don't think he was written well, but that's just my opinion. I also hate Big Mom from One Piece. God, I hate her character. She's so obnoxious in my opinion. I can't stand her. I hate her. I think that her character is very frustrating. I think she's very obnoxious, and she gets on my nerves. I mean, I just can't stand her. Cannot stand her character. Really hate Big Mom. I mean, you know, Oda's good at writing villains that make me just hate them. Like Crocodile. I hated Crocodile. I hated his character. I love to hate him because he was a pretty well-written villain in my opinion. But I hate him too. But I love to hate him. But Big Mom's more on that obnoxious level. That's like Ribrianne in Dragon Ball. I can't stand Ribrianne. I understand that she's a Sailor Moon parody, like the Magical Girl parody and stuff like that. I can't stand her character though. I thought she was so obnoxious. When 18 knocked her out and the Tournament of Power, I was so happy. I was like, 18's in my top 3 favorite characters now just for knocking out Ribrianne. I was like, thank you. Because I hated Ribrianne that bad. I was like, whoever knocks her out is going to be in my top 3 favorite Dragon Ball characters of all time. 18 did it, so 18's in my top 3 now because of that. But, yeah, those are some of the characters I really can't stand in anime. I mean, there's a lot more I could go into, but those are some notable ones that other people will recognize. But, you know, that's just me. It's just my opinion. So, moving on to Ito Mad World. This is what Ito Mad World had to say. Nice to see, bud. Yeah, that bit with Vic and Funimation was crazy. Also, Q&A. If you already played Fire Emblem Three Houses, which are your 3 favorite characters in that game, and explain why you like them. Okay, so I really want to get that game. And if you know me, I am a hardcore Fire Emblem fan. I love Fire Emblem. I have just not had the time to go and get it. That's the thing that sucks. Is that I haven't had the time to go get the game yet. And I don't want anybody to spoil anything, so please don't. But, oh man, you know, I want to play that game so bad. I already plan on which team I'm going to join. I'm going to join the Black Eagles. I think they look awesome in my opinion. So that's going to be my first playthrough is the Black Eagles. But yeah, I really want to play the game. And when I do, I will definitely tell you who my favorite characters are. But at the moment, yeah, I have to wait on that one. But yeah, very good question. Ink Rider asks, if you want to watch any Netflix show or anime, what would your top 10 or 5 be? So, I would say Castlevania because I've heard so many great things about it. But aside from that, I would have to look because when it comes down to Netflix, I don't watch Netflix. So I would have to look at what they have, and then I will come back to you on that question because I don't actually watch Netflix, but I do know of Castlevania. That's about really it. If anybody would like to throw recommendations at me, though, I will definitely take a look. and then I'll tell you. I'll let you know. I mean, I'll have to look around at what Netflix has to offer that I would probably like, and then I'll get back to you. So, but yeah, good question though. Going on to the next question, Raul Bastidas. I hope I said your name right. If I butchered it, I apologize. Ask, pancakes or waffles? Okay, so I'm going to give you a fun little fact about me. And this is interesting. So I'm weird in this way. When it comes to food, I mean, I do have my favorites. I like pancakes and waffles pretty much the same, really. If I had to say, though, I would probably go with pancakes. But a fun little fact about me when it comes to food, to this very day, out of all the food I've ever eaten in my entire life, to this very day, there is not a food that I have tried that I actually do not like. Now that's weird because, naturally people have something they don't like. Oddly about me, there is not a food I don't like that I have tried. And that's probably sounded really strange. Now, when it comes to drinks, here's another fun fact. I'm extremely picky when it comes to drinks, though. So, when I drink something, I have a lot of drinks I don't typically like. So, there's very few things I actually do drink because there's very few things that I actually do like to drink. But when it comes to food, though, yeah, I'm not picky at all. Not at all whatsoever. Now, if I do find something one day that I dislike, then I'll say, hey, I have a food I finally dislike. But until then, there's not a food that I've tried that I actually dislike. So, interesting fact about me. So, moving on to the next question. Bubonic goes on to ask, first off, I enjoy your content. Really enjoyable. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that. I hope everybody does. And I'm glad to hear that you do. The only question I have is this. With the Rooster Teeth in crisis, I continue to worry about their content, and it makes me wonder if the worst will happen. My question is this. Would you support a RWBY reboot if that were to happen? If so, what would you like to see changed? Well, there'd be many things I would like to see changed if that were to be the case. For one, a more consistent story. That'd be the first thing. I would definitely like to see a much more consistent story because, with all the retcons, all the inconsistencies that keep happening with RWBY, I mean, it just makes the world just feel so out of touch with itself because it's like, oh, look, well, we have one thing, then we have another, then we have another. And, it's just such a problem trying to put everything together when there's so many retcons because, like I said, it just makes so many things inconsistent. And that's one thing. Another is, as time has gone on, the story, I mean, I wouldn't want them to readapt certain things. Volumes 4 through 6, I would completely change. Entirely. I would totally scrap what Volumes 4 through 6 was and redo that. Because I don't like the direction that they took in a lot of areas. Now, there were some things I'm okay with. But there were more things I'm not okay with than the things I am okay with, what they've done with volumes 4 through 6 for certain. And I think many fans can say that as well. And many characters just act so out of character. They just don't act the way they used to. And I have many problems with that because, even if a character develops, they're going to retain qualities of who they were before they developed. And they act like some characters just were redone, as if they just had the old characters, right? And even though these old characters are still in the series, for the ones that are, it's like they replaced them with clones that are more one-dimensional than the old characters used to be. So, there's that. And I think that they could do better at that, and I hope that if there was a reboot, that the new writers, because I would not want Miles and Carrie near it. I'm just going to tell you, I would not approve of them writing on the series if there was a reboot. I would hope that they would stay far away from it, to be honest with you. Because I think they're one of the biggest problems with the writing. Because, as I stated before, what Miles stated during the RTX, they wanted to hurry up and get it out there. And that's, quantity over quality. But I'd rather have quality over quantity. And if it took time, more than a year or so, for a new volume of RWBY to be released once it was rebooted, as long as it was great, fantastic, consistent, and did things right and well according to the laws of the world itself that's been established, I'd have no problem with that. No problem whatsoever. I'd be all for it. I just hope that they would do things well. I hope that the fights would be amazing. I hope that things would make more sense than they do. And I think that if the writing is just structured better, the characters are just wonderful all around. They have great motivations, and they aren't one dimensional or just completely changed from who they once were in the terms of their personality or what they were all about, then yeah, fine. I'd be all for it. All for it. Moving on to the next part of Bubonic's question, this is what they had to say. And lastly, since Neo is best girl in the RWBY world, I agree. You definitely got that right for certain. I certainly agree with you there. Has your original theory of her, if you had one, changed since hearing the full song of One Thing? Interesting question. Actually, it has, because originally Neo was confirmed to have a voice actress, and I had believed that it might be possible that she's not really mute. And there was even jokes back at RTX, I think it was 2016, I think. It was after Volume 3, and it was still before Volume 4. And Miles and Carrie were talking about if Neo came back into the series, they had said that maybe they would have her voice be deep. Obviously, as a joke, they meant like a manly voice. And Neo did originally have a voice actress, but that person was untitled. So they were an uncredited voice actress for Neo, but all they really did was the gasp, grunting, and the little chuckle when she was shown in Volume 3. So, yeah, Neo had a voice actress at one time. It made me believe that maybe Neo actually could speak, especially considering that they were making jokes about what they would have her say at a certain point. That's why I always theorized that maybe Neo was never really mute the whole entire time. So, that was just my thoughts on that. But, I guess, they went ahead and just decided to have her be mute. But I also did like how it really shows a good side to Roman. Because, of course, they try to make him out as if he was a bad guy, but ultimately he was just trying to survive. That's what he was doing. He was trying to make way to survive. And I like that. It shows another side to Roman that you wouldn't have known had you not heard the song One Thing, and I hope that they go into the backstory of that. But, I mean, of course, I love the idea that One Thing really gives you about Neo's character. I enjoy that, and I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's really, really cool. I really enjoy Neo, and I like what One Thing did for her character as well as even Roman. But anyways, if you have any questions for the next Q&A for next month, leave them in the comment section of this video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this Q&A. I hope you all enjoyed the answers that I gave to your questions, and I hope I answered all your questions. If not, then I certainly will next month. But anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today. And remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.